Good evening, everyone.
You're good.
We're starting now. We're live. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to let everyone know that the meeting this evening will be live streamed as per policy number 7, regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves at its sole discretion via motion at any meeting the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of a meeting. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education at 7:01 p.m. I would like to first acknowledge that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsquit, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yayistol, Skekayais, and Natsamat, or Skekayais working together, and Natsamat, Letsamat, uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart, to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to welcome some guests this evening. First of all, our Board of Trustees. We have at the far end here, Trustee Fox and Trustee Ward, Trustee Rye. At the other end, Trustee Wilson, Trustee Neufeld, and Trustee Dickinson, Superintendent Mel Gill, Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley. We have Deputy Superintendent Woody Bradford, Assistant Superintendent Lisa Langeberry, Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shind Chand, Joanne Abshire, Communications Manager, Executive Assistant Judy Swanson, IT Manager of Infrastructure and Security Dale Vo, Technical Support Specialist Paul Baboa, Technical Support Specialist Vincent Montefrio, Vice President of QP 1260 Taylor Hollabov, LTA President Tanya Kerr, Vice President of LTA Ellen Bernowski, LPVPA President Kim Anderson, DPAC President Alicia Rempel, and I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. Oh, my apologies. Darren Storsley, LTA, as well, LTA Vice President. And I'd also like to recognize a few former trustees in the audience. Suzanne Perot, Rod Ross, and I believe I did see Allison McVeigh as well. Oh, and Rosemary Wallace. Hi, Rosemary. Sorry, you snuck in. Thank you all for being here this evening. Sorry, all right, so first we have a report from in camera, Trustee Dickinson.
In camera, we spoke about legal and personnel issues.
Okay, trustees, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Can I have a mover that the board, thank you, Trustee Fox, that the Board of Education adopts the consent agenda items as presented, moved by Trustee Fox. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Neufeld. It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education adopt the consent agenda items as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Trustee Wilson.
Yes, thank you. I would like to pull item 4.1, consideration of minutes, and item 4.2.4, policy committee.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move 4.1 down and now make it 6. And 4.2.4, we will move under policy, so it will become 10.2.3. Or sorry, 10.3, 10.2, 10.3. Can I then have a motion to accept the, to adopt the consent agenda items as amended? Trustee Wilson, seconder. Trustee Ward, is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Okay, motion is carried unanimously. We have consideration of the agenda. Trustees, you have the agenda in front of you. Do I have a mover that the Board of Education adopts the agenda as presented? Moved by Trustee Fox. Is there a seconder? Trustee Rye? It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Ward? No, we amended the, no, actually, should it be? Yes, we did amend it. So, because we moved items out of consent agenda. So, yeah, technically, I guess, yeah. So, okay, so we could have a motion that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as amended. Trustee Fox? Okay, Trustee Wilson, second. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, next on our agenda is presentations. We have a couple of special guests with us this evening, and Trustee Wilson is going to do the honor to speak with her. Yeah. Yes, we did move the minutes to 6.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The
Minutes
minutes that she pulled out.
We just approved the minutes, did we not?
No,
Bear with me, first meeting. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. So yes, we still have to do a motion on the minutes. So just let me get to my place here. So you have the minutes from my right place here. Yeah, on September 20th. So if I could have a mover to adopt the minutes. Trustee Fox? Do I have a seconder? Trustee Ward? Okay. Any discussion on the minutes?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
So I just saw an error that Mike Pugh, District Principal of Aboriginal, is listed under the trustees that were present at that meeting, and I don't believe he's a trustee, so we might want to move him out of there. And I believe Trustee Neufeld has something as well.
Trustee Neufeld?
yeah, just under, moving and seconded. Find full names there without the trustee.
Okay, so we've got those changes then. Okay, so if I could have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended, please. Trustee Wilson? Trustee Fox? Any more discussion on? All in favor? Can I show of hands? Opposed? Okay, carried unanimously. Okay, my apologies, I jumped ahead there a little bit. So now we're on to our presentations. So if I'll pass it over to you, Trustee Wilson.
Great. Thank you all for coming. What a big crowd we have tonight. Very festive. It's an honor and a privilege to get to say a few words on behalf of the board to these past trustees. So I'd like to start with Rod Ross. Rod Ross, or should I just refer to you as Maverick? Your years of commitment to service are unmatched. You were the longest serving trustee in the history of the Langley Board of Education, And I think you can probably feel pretty confident that no one will ever beat your record. You have been a witness to so many changes during your time on the board. So many great initiatives and projects have happened in the Langley School District during your time. The creation of the Langley School District Foundation, the International Student Program, the Ideas Summit, countless new schools, and the list is much, much longer, but there are just a few of the highlights. Your history of the Langley School District and institutional knowledge is unparalleled and was so valuable to the previous boards of education. Your focus on innovative student development and always wanting to push your colleagues to think outside the box will be truly missed. I know I only spent one term on the board with you, but I learned that you only need to ask one question to really get a good understanding of any particular topic. And that question is, what keeps you up at night? Seriously though, Rod, I want to leave off with something that you said, and I am quoting your words. Langley Schools and Community is a great place to learn, work, and live, but we must never forget that it is a team we play on, and no one succeeds when someone loses. Life is not meant to be a zero-sum game. We must ensure that every student is successful. Our society cannot afford to lose even one. It may seem quaint, but I do believe we can do great things together. Those are wise words, Mr. Ross, and we as a board will work to live up to them. The Langley Board of Education wishes you every success and is truly thankful for your service. If you'd like to come up. If you could please come up, we have a small gift for you.
Thank you. 29 years. And, I'm so pleased, so proud of everyone. On an election. Doesn't want me. No. On doing something else. That's great. And that I do. One. Or that's something we'll have to be mindful of. But us and them. Integrity. And that's why we're very. Thank you. It's been an absolute joy.
Okay, that was great. Next, we have Suzanne Perot. Suzanne, in your time on the board, you achieved so much and had such a powerful impact on our most vulnerable students. Your tireless advocacy has been an inspiration to myself and your colleagues at the board table. You are a true champion for inclusion and a compassionate community leader. The impact you have had on the Langley School District through your thoughtful work and board motions will benefit future generations of students. Some of those motions include ensuring barrier-free spaces in schools, making feminine hygiene products available in schools, Indigenous cultural training for onboarding trustees, fostering safe and inclusive schools through the policy and reporting on use of seclusion and isolation rooms. Those are just a few of the more formal pieces of work. Your quiet work at fostering relationships within the Indigenous communities and inclusion communities was and is one of your most valuable gifts. You are always first to volunteer whenever the community puts out a call. The committees you served on, Yayastal, Inclusive Education, and Emergency Preparedness, were all enhanced by your knowledge of and dedication to students and families. Being a trustee was a great extension of your advocacy and counseling work because you live and breathe that work all day, every day. And I am confident that whether you sit in one of the chairs up here or one of the chairs out there, your commitment to serving students will be just as effective. Your catchphrase, capture their hearts and their mind will follow, is a phrase that you have emphasized so often it has become a guide for so much of our work. Suzanne, on behalf of the Langley Board of Education, we wish you unlimited success and thank you for your service. Thank you for that. All of these wrestling with me. What do you do? Is it? Upvote? And all our work.
word reconciliation is here, but you're part of reconciliation. You can't sit back. You have to help work. Our people need your help. We have Lower Fraser Valley Aboriginal Society. We have Wachia. We have many Indigenous families that live here in Langley. And each one came here for the reason of either the Aboriginal program, the Early Childhood Network, the Strong Start. I have to put that in for Sam back there because there's so much more to do. And all of you new ones, you need to know that we struggle with poverty, with lack of interest in what your words are saying to other people, that every entity that's here in Langley and Aldergrove, Walnut Grove, every place is growing. And our hospital is too small and we are behind in schools, I imagine. Am I right, Mel? So I keep seeing the billing on, I don't know how much more they can build on 208 there. So I'm just thinking, holy moly, they're going to build up. That's all it can do. So I want you to know I believe in you, like I believed in Suzanne and Rod. And we got to stand with some really cool people. And I really liked the minister. I didn't know she was the Minister of Education till after I met her at Vanguard. And I go, who's I talking to? Or talking to her at Donna Gabriel Robbins Elementary School. Who was I talking to? And he said, that was Miss, I want to call her Ironside because she had an iron fist, so she did good work for us as well. And I want to thank her for that. And if anybody ever gets to tell her that, please tell her on behalf of our people, our Indigenous people that live here in this beautiful area, all my relations.
I just wanted to mention that I was remiss in mentioning that Mayor Nathan Pahal is here as well. I wrote it down and I missed him on the next page because there's quite a few guests here this evening. And I also saw former trustee Shelley Coburn sneak in a bit later, so welcome. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, so item number 8 on the agenda, superintendent's reports. So I will. Sure. No, superintendent was next. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will pass the mic over to you, Superintendent Jones.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. It's my pleasure this evening to bring to everyone's attention the strategic plan, the process that we'll be going through as a district, and to just do some review of the 2019 to 2022 strategic plan as well. This evening, I'm going to share some data as well, just some initial data over the last 4 years and even from past that on a couple of graphics, just to kind of give partners and trustees the opportunity to see the impact that the STRAT plan has had, and more than the STRAT plan, certainly the people that are working in classrooms every single day to make a difference in the lives of kids. So again, just to get back to the strategic plan itself, we're at the end of the cycle for the strategic plan as we start with the new board, and together with this board, we'll be able to build a roadmap for the next 4 years. The work that's involved in creating a new plan is plenty. There's lots to go around because a good plan isn't done by one person, it's done by a group. And we'll be soliciting our partners, the community, for their feedback as we move forward in establishing our new cycle, the new plan for our district. I want to remind trustees, and again, I'm not going to go over all of these, but in policy, as part of the work that trustees and the board does, it is to establish a strategic plan. The important piece for us is that together, when we make this plan, that we focus on student success as we go through this plan. So everything we do as a board, we do because we want to make sure that every child is successful. I think we heard that in some of the speeches earlier today. Again, just to review the 2019-22 strategic plan that was led by then Superintendent Gord Stewart. Went through a number of iterations when we first went into the planning stages, but landed at a place where we were working on educational opportunities, community partnerships, and then operational priorities. The key really is that we kept the same theme for all of our areas and really tried to focus on the theme of equity as we move through the years. Our vision, an innovative, inspiring and unified learning community, although unified and innovative sounds like it's a clashes with one another. It is something as a district we struggle with at times. I think it gives us an opportunity to really think about how to do things differently, but make sure we're sharing those ideas with one another so that the impacts we're having in one place will certainly impact our whole district. It's through this vision that we want to prepare our students for a changing world. And through this vision that we went through and created, an opportunity to make good decisions for our kids. For educational goals, we focused on 3 different areas: the intellectual development, human, social, and careers. We were intentional about moving our strategic plan into these 3 areas because our framework for enhancing student learning also touches on these 3 areas, and we needed to be congruent in the needs between all of our plans. Don't want to have 2 or 3 different plans that are trying to do different things. We thought we needed to focus all of our energies and resources in the same place. Again, looking to prepare our students for the future and looking to build curiosity and a capacity to be creative, especially in this world today when we know that students who leave our schools could be in 4, 5, 6 different careers before they're finished their work life. So how are they adapting? How can they adapt? And how are schools preparing our students for that? Human social development is something, again, that started 5 or 6 years ago under the guise of Don Tomlinson, then director. Talked a lot about belonging in our schools. And we continue to work at that. We haven't got it to that place where every student in every school every day is feeling like they're welcome and safe. But I know that a very high percentage of our students are. In fact, we're improving in that area every single day, and we continue to accept that challenge as leaders and as folks in our buildings as well. It's a huge part of the work that we do. Careers development, again, I touched on this already. The opportunity to provide habits that are needed in today's work world, and to make students innovative and creative and flexible in finding careers that really suit them. As far as the community goes, again, I think an area of strength for us in the district. We've been working really hard over the last 4 or 5 years in creating community. The relationship with the community and us is reciprocal. One of the things I think we do really well is to solicit feedback from our community. We've done that in a number of different occasions. To be a part of district, township, and city committees. Again, to be partners in providing opportunities for our students. And in the other piece is we're always trying to make sure our students through work experience and other means are getting into the community and connecting. See a picture here with our school liaison officers working with students as well. And again, as we work through the next few years, really trying to solidify that relationship and what it looks like and what it can be with our RCMP. I think, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we have 2 successes that I think we should and ought to brag about as far as our partnerships. One is, of course, the Foundry. Having one of our staff members having a place in the Foundry really has been an opportunity for us as a district to reach out with our community partners to provide that blanket of support for our kids when they really need it. And it's not just our kids, it's our families as well. The second thing I'm extremely proud of staff and their work around the Youth Engagement Project, really getting the voices of students out front and center. And again, having students, marginalized students who we haven't done a real good job of listening to in the past, really getting their voices to the table and hearing what they have to say and providing us with the feedback and the directions that we need to go next as a district to make sure that we're fulfilling their needs. Operationally, we continue to work at trying to provide equity for all of our students and creating a balance for our resources so that we can enhance student achievement. Again, making connections to what's happening in operations with student achievement is really an important part of the work that we do. For finance and facilities management, you know, again, equity. To be able to walk into any single school and having all of our students proud of the place that they're going to school in. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit 2 schools. One was Aldergrove Community Secondary School. Walked into that gym and I was excited by first the energy of the kids, second just the facility itself and the work that's been done there and the investments that we've made in that school. The other school I was able to take a tour with a number of students who during our middle school networking meeting took us on a tour of HD Stafford and warmed my heart. Again, the pride that those students had or have in their school. One of the questions I asked Principal Hankey was, you know, tell me about the first time the kids walked into the gym after they saw the paintings on the wall, the graphic on the wall. And he said it was overwhelming. And he said the piece that really got him most was when the parents walked into this school, the impact that they had, that was had on them. He said that was one of the most amazing experiences that he's ever had. And again, as we continue our work in the operations world and finance facilities, one of the pieces of work that Brian and his team work on constantly in looking at creating partnerships with the Ministry of Education in hopes of getting, not just hopes, in need of getting new schools. We just opened DGRE, Donna Gabriel Robbins Elementary, and looking at trying to open Northeast Yorkton as quickly as we can, because we know that the difficulties on the slope. The need to continue to that planning as we move forward as a team. We know that the slope is growing. We know that the district is growing. We know that the needs are growing. We know that buildings are needed, and we need to be able to lobby the government, the ministry, to provide us as priorities beyond other schools and other school districts. Lastly, just want to touch on human resources, the work that they've done over the last year, 5 years specifically, and over the last years, the work has been tremendous. And again, lots of credit to go towards Director Yu, District Principals Yu, and District Principal Reeve as well. We have Aaron Geisinger there in that department on the CUPE side. And of course, the leadership of Woody Bradford there as well. And just to really be able to see the work around wellness and looking at how we're ensuring that our adults are feeling well in their positions and trying to take care of them. An important part of the work that we do, because we know that if the adults are well in their classrooms, we know that the students will be better off as well. And that work is important, again, led by a huge group of people. I would be remiss not to mention Megan Zaslin and Deanna Miller and others who have been a part of that work over the last few years. And we continue to try and make inroads in the area of wellness, working with our partner groups. And again, as we move forward through the strategic plan, I believe strongly that this needs to be a big part of the plan moving forward. The work that's in the plan doesn't happen overnight. You'll notice the schedule that I'll be keeping over the next little while. And I know that our partner groups have been contacted and we're still working at trying to get all of our meetings in place over the next few months. But I can tell you that we're going to do everything we can to hear from our community, to hear from our partners, our stakeholders, our rights holders, and ensuring that our students' voices are heard as we move forward in the strategic plan. Obviously, for trustees, I'll be keeping all of you updated. We'll be inviting you to meetings as well through our strategic planning sessions and education meetings, and letting you know where we are in the process. And I think we will, at the end of this, really have a plan that we can all be proud of and create a roadmap as we move forward. No presentation of mine is ever finished unless we see this graphic, because I do believe that every child matters, and I know that this mantra doesn't just belong to me, it belongs to every adult in our district. We care about our kids and we're making a difference in our students, and I think it's absolutely evident in in our schools when I get a chance to visit. I know from our stories, but in addition to that, I know from our data. Our transition data just this year has come back and is better than it ever has been. It's a point in time, yes. And we're not all the way there yet, because I said, as we go back to that last slide, every child matters. We've got lots of work to do for our 5-year transition numbers. But I've highlighted in blue just the work, the impact that the strategic plan has had over the last 4 or 5 years as far as our numbers are concerned. And I want to commend the vision of Superintendent Stewart and his work in his leadership in creating the goalposts for all of us that we thought unattainable 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And it was his vision and his courage to say what he said to get us to where we are today. And I say this because I think it's important to know that the strategic plan that we currently have, the bones of it are fantastic. We see the proof. And in fact, I'm going to show you the 6-year transition rates as well. The numbers are even better and even stronger. Again, still have gaps with some of our marginalized students. We still have work to do, but we're heading and trending in the right direction. And with that, I think it's really important for trustees to be aware that as we start to create the strategic plan, that we're not creating a brand new wheel, that the wheel is there, the car is there. Really, some of the features that we need to put into the car need to change. And maybe there's a tune-up that needs to be done here and there, but certainly I know that the work that we've started needs to continue. I think about the people in our classrooms and I think about the work that they've started. It's really difficult for us to, at this table, suddenly drastically change the direction. If we're thinking about wellness of our employees, we have to think about consistency of practice, consistency of leadership, and consistency of direction, because we've shown through these numbers that we're heading in the right direction. To do a right turn now, I think would be the wrong thing to do. But again, I think it's something I may stand to be corrected, because we've got a lot of talking to do with a lot of different people over the next few months before we bring a final plan to the table. And if we take away all of the barriers, and I mentioned HD Stafford earlier today, and we invest in the lives of our students, one of the things that I know that we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to see the success of our kids. And I know this is about 4 minutes long, but it warms my heart every time I see this. This is our HD Stafford band who was competing in CTV Canadian Music Class Challenge. They're currently in the top 10. I believe December 14th, they're going to name the winners, but in my books, they've won already. Amazing young children who've been practicing this Neil Young song over the last little while, Heart of Gold. And I've been humming it the last few hours. And Secretary Treasurer is just about sick and tired of it, but I think it's really important for all of you to see the joy in the faces. And I'm going to play it right to the end for the simple reason that you need to see the reaction of the kids at the end of this as well. So sit back, listen, and enjoy HD Stafford Band. of the students, the teacher who's relatively new, I believe did his practicum at Langley Fine. Again, just an amazing teacher who's given his heart to that school, as do many of the teachers and staff at that school. We're making a difference every single day. And again, it's about removing barriers so that kids can perform at the highest levels. They can compete at national championships and know that every single student there's got their own story. And as proud as they are, just by the looks on their face, the players as they're playing and they're doing their solos, the smiles that they have on their face, that's what success really looks like. It's not the numbers from the previous slides. That's success for us. We're aiming for through our strategic plan as we move. Happy to take questions at this.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. I'm going to be humming that song now as well. Okay, can I please have a mover from trustees that the Board of Education receives the report on the development of the 2023 to 2026 strategic plan for information as presented? Trustee Fox, seconder. Trustee Dickinson. And any discussion? Trustee Fox?
It looks like to me, and you may, or our partner groups will get at least 2 opportunities to give you input. Either they've got, it looks like their the CUPE groups and the LTA and the LPVPA and so on have individual meetings. Then there is consultation later on with, it says the draft review with the partner groups again, and then community partners input on the final draft. So I was going to ask the question, what about the business community? Is there a value added piece to engaging the business community in a strategic plan which really may reflect where our students will be?
Thank you, Trustee Fox. I think it's certainly a valuable idea to include as many people as we can, and perhaps an evening with the community might be in order. I think one of the things I think we want to make sure we're being really careful about is making sure that we have the work that we need to do at the district level around the learning piece, because I feel like the early learning piece is the most important part of success for our kids, but something that certainly I would need to consider through this process as well. Probably near the end after we've established a draft plan.
There, and I see them as a partner group, although not obviously as directly involved. But that would be the local post-secondary areas, because we have Kwantlen, we have Trinity Western. Again, many of our students engage in those 2 facilities, also UFE, obviously because of proximity. Who may be valuable to share the documentation and request some of their input too. The other piece that I just wanted to make a comment about, and it's a question in a sense, always interested in metrics. You gave us some excellent, obviously some amazing. It's amazing how the statistics have improved since I got on the board. But I won't go very far with that little conversation. But anyway. But metrics is always a good measure for us, and it's a good indicator of where we're at and where we're going and how we are achieving those goals. So the process will build in metrics in each of the areas.
A big believer in collection of data, absolutely. District Principal Mike Pugh is in charge of metrics, and he's part of our strategic planning team, and we'll be bringing those numbers forth in the meetings that we'll be having.
Is that just for us, or are you going to communicate that out, Joe?
The transition rates will be brought to a regular meeting, I believe, in January, to kind of go a little bit more in depth into where we are. So we will be sharing that and making it public. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Wilson?
Great presentation, great band at HD Stafford, way to go. Yeah, I don't disagree with the Superintendent Gill about not recreating the wheel. But I do know, like we say right in the package, the strategic plan is a cumulative ongoing process that provides direction and communication regarding the Board of Education's goals during the 4-year term of the election cycle. And all of the information trustees receive and when we campaign and whenever you look up what's a trustee's role, the strategic plan is one of the main bodies of work for the board. And so I guess, and I don't want to take this as a criticism, just when looking through the calendar of events, we haven't really met yet to put forward our goals as a new board and with what our individual goals and team goals are for this strategic plan. But from what I can see from the timeline, there's already been some meetings with what looks like a draft plan. So I'm just curious, I guess, how a plan can be drafted without the board's input yet. And I'm hoping that we will be having more than the one meeting I see listed here for January 10th. And would like to suggest an extra strat plan meeting or work session where the board can give direction after reviewing feedback from the partner groups.
As trustees are aware, Mike McKay will be working with us around the strategic plan and input from the trustees collectively. So I counted that as one of our opportunities to meet and have conversations around the strategic plan. He offered to lead us through that conversation, and I think we'll take him up on that. That meeting is February the 6th, I believe. In addition to that, like I said, strategic plan opportunities and education meetings you'll be obviously be doing presentations. In addition to that, the meetings that we've currently had around, it's our district regular strategic planning team that's currently meeting and looking at our current 19 to 22 plan and trying to make determinations within their own areas, things that should stay, things they think could move out, or recommendations to move forward. Eyes from the folks that are kind of leading that work, I thought would be important before we brought it to trustees.
Okay, thanks. I'm happy to hear about the Mike McKay session. I feel like that'll be valuable. So thanks for answering that.
Trustee Dickinson.
Or Trustee Wilson. That we are able to report back to those that elected us and that we are able to have a voice, because it's wonderful that we have the partner groups all involved, but we also have individual members of the community that we need to be responsible for and speaking for. The other question I had, I was just noticing that the child, youth, and care numbers, they fluctuate quite a bit for the graduation rates. And I understand that there's a lot that goes in behind that. And I'm just looking at our community groups that are being consulted here for our strat plan. And I'm hoping that maybe we could have, because I don't see it on here, maybe I'm wrong, but are we consulting with people that are in the child, youth, and care realm that can help us understand those numbers and how we can actually increase them, because they are quite concerning.
One of our biggest concerns as a district team is those numbers around child, youth, and care. I think we as a district are one of very few districts that have got an administrator at the district level who's charged with supporting child, youth, and care. We've spent a ton of time over the last 2 or 3 years actually just going through the data and even identifying those students, creating opportunities for those students as they come into our district to have the best placement. And as they transition out, as unfortunately some of those students are quite transient, that we're ensuring that we're providing supports as they move into their new district should they be moving. With the work that IHARE has done, and again, I think some of the trustees that have been on the board in the past have had the benefit of the presentation she's been provided. She makes a connection through the Foundry. She's also working with the Youth Engagement Project, and so between those three, we get quite a bit of feedback from our partners, and she does sit on a number of township and city committees around supporting youth and supporting some of our marginalized families. In addition to that, we continue to work as a team currently around how we're supporting all of our marginalized students, specifically looking at our retention rates at our secondary schools, looking at children in care specifically in that area, looking at students who are designated in the H&R behavior designations, and oftentimes that goes hand in hand with some of our children in care, and looking at how we can revision the way we work with those students. That's a longer conversation. It's one that I believe will be a part of this plan, because over the next 3 to 5 years, I vision that the world of supports for those students will be richer and more directed, and a number of different adults involved in their lives. So absolutely, thank you for pointing that out.
Okay. I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity to maybe look at our schedule here with all of those that we are consulting, and having a specific meeting with either some of the elder youth that are in care, and taking some firsthand feedback. I know that we've got, we're consulting with some of these post or the secondary students from the different high schools, and we're taking a lot of adults' opinions in here. And I'm just wondering if it would be valuable for our planning to maybe have a small meeting with them to kind of see what they feel could help them.
Again, the youth project that I talked about earlier is a way to include not just our students that are in care, but a number of our marginalized students from our schools. And I would like to look at a similar model as we move forward. It's the same work that we did when we were informed on the work that we were doing with our vessel as well. Deputy Superintendent Bradford met with those students, looked for the suggestions, and in fact, the work around the revisioning of our schools around how we work with our H&R students comes from that meeting that he had with those students. So absolutely, part of the work you'll see is that a meeting with students is certainly scheduled, and that would include those students in those meetings.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Great. The question is on the motion that the Board of Education receives the report on the development of the 2023-2026 strategic plan for information as presented. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to Student and Family Affordability Fund.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an opportunity for Assistant Superintendent Mouino to just go over the Affordability Fund and the work that we're doing with the Affordability Fund, and how we're dispersing that money in the process that we collectively went through. I'm always careful about not going too deep into the introductions, because usually I take a part of the presentation. But the Affordability Fund itself was as a one-time grant given by the ministry to every district. Our share was somewhere around $2.6 million. Sounds like a ton of money, but obviously with the needs in the community, that money found its way, or is finding its way to students. I'm going to let Assistant Superintendent Mouino review the process and let us know where the funds are going.
So the Student and Family Affordability Fund, a little bit of background. You may recall that Langley's portion of the approximate $60 million at the provincial level was about $2.163 million. In terms of the purpose of the fund, very much towards 3 areas: food, fees, and supplies. And very much those 3 areas had to be connected to schools. On a further clarification, the ministry noted that the main focus of this fund would be food insecurity. As part of the process, we gathered a district guiding coalition, and this included people from different parts of the district who then represented students from different parts of the district. So for example, we had District Vice Principal Aya Hare, who represents children and youth in care. For example, we had District Principal Mike Pugh, represented our Indigenous the Indigenous families in the district, and so on. This group also, beyond their district roles where they represented some of those students who traditionally have been marginalized, they also, in their personal lives, are a part of different groups in the community, such as one of the members is on the board of directors for Encompass. Another member is part of the township and the city's joint anti-poverty coalition or task force. And so these are people who are incredibly committed to equity and making sure that our families and these funds would be maximized. In terms of consultation, it did take some time, but sometimes we go slow to try to get it as right as possible to have maximum impact, and then we go quickly. In terms of consultation, we included the district PAC, the PACs from each school in the district, and we did that through our administrators, who then presented at PAC meetings throughout the month of October. We also connected through schools through something called the Enhanced Support Team. You need to know that the Enhanced Support Team actually was born out of necessity when the pandemic first started. And so when March 2020 till June 2020, when students were not in session in schools, the Langley School District Foundation and the district worked together to ensure that funds that were set aside for the different food programs actually reached the families who then would actually come to schools, and we would they received gift cards to make sure then that those families were being taken care of, and that there was food security, that the pandemic wouldn't get in the way. From that, coming from necessity, working with the Vice Principal Aya Hare and the Langley School District Foundation, those enhanced support teams continue to function, and we're very much a part of this plan. At each school, that team consists of volunteers on staff who are very connected to the students in those schools, who very much, I would say, are the students who lack food security and who lack financial security in terms of their family situations. So very connected group of staff. There was also consultation with the local First Nations, the Langley School District Foundation itself, and various community groups and agencies. In terms of the plan, there are different aspects of the plan. The first part was connecting with our community partners. And so based on the consultation feedback, there are various grants that I will explain here in terms of our community partners. So first off, the Langley School District Foundation received a grant of $73,000 to expand existing food programs in the district. The requests and demands of the food programs over the years were never able to be met as hard as the School District Foundation tried. And so this grant is able to bridge that gap for this entire school year. The Langley School District Foundation also received requests in terms of starting new food programs in schools, and thus received a grant of $32,000 to start those food programs. In terms of Raphael and Aldergrove Community House, Neighborhood and Station House, the funds there are directed specifically towards supporting 120 Langley School District families, enhancing the normal support they get by $20 a week for the duration of the school year. And that adds up to $100,000 for each of those two groups. The Sources Langley Food Bank supports those same groups, as well as more than 350 Langley families. That $100,000 grant will be used to enhance the food options that those families receive. The Lower Fraser Valley Aboriginal Society supports at least 60 families in the Langley School District. The grant of $50,000 is towards those 60 families to receive a $20 enhancement per week over the course of the entire school year. The Encompass Support Services Society, in a slightly different way, supports our Langley students as well, but this time through after-school programs. Specifically, there are 5 after-school programs that they requested funding for, so that students who engage in those after-school programs would have snacks as a part of those programs. In terms of local First Nations food programs, we heard back from 3 of the local First Nations that provide support to their neediest families. And we double the support that they give to ensure that those families would then receive support and then thus justifying the $15,000 grant. The Foundry Food Program is something unique. They also provide snacks for student drop-in, but more than that, they have an industrial kitchen. And in that industrial kitchen, they endeavor to bring families in and work with them to develop healthy options on a budget, and in doing so, build capacity within families in that are connected to the Langley School District. And then finally, going back to after-school programs, Game Ready and other basketball partnership programs, there's a $5,000 grant to ensure that those students have snacks when they need them, when they're part of these after-school programs. In terms of funds towards schools, that leaves $1.46 million to go then to families through schools. In terms of determining what schools received and how they were received, again, we relied very much on the feedback from the various groups that I'd mentioned earlier. We also use the Social Services Index, which looks at the families who receive social services or income assistance. We also very much relied on the enhanced support team data, the families that they know rely on or require some additional assistance during these tough times. That then allocated 83% of that $1.46 million. The other way that we decided to allocate funds was based on school size, a smaller amount, but still important, because what we found that there's a new group, an emerging group of families that have needs, because again, traditionally they haven't used the district or the foundation in terms of support, but we're realizing that they're emerging, and thus it makes sense that the larger schools then would have more of those emerging families. So we tried to take as many different parts of the equation into account when allocating funds. Just to explain the example of the graph, we've masked the schools, but these are numbers for actual schools in the Langley School District. So you'll notice then, for example, the very first column, that is based on the SSI data as well as the EST, the Enhanced Support Team data. And we can see, for example, that one school, the second school, has only 0.18 of some of those neediest families in terms of food insecurity and financial insecurity. Meanwhile, other schools in this district had almost 8% of those families. And the result then, again, is quite a difference in terms of funds allocated. The 0.18 school, the second one, received then $2,141 based on the SSI data. In other words, the number of needy families based on those definitions. But they also had a population of 361. So we know that there's some emerging families. So they received an additional $4,000 for a total of $6,000 then towards Langley families in terms of, again, food, fees, and school supplies. On the other hand, we have then a school that had almost 8% of those families received, based on that formula, $96,000 based on their school size, an additional $7,000 for a total of $103,000. So you can see, based on needs throughout the district, they were very uneven, and so the Guiding Coalition very much attempted to make sure that this had maximum effect on the families that needed it most. In terms of how it works with schools, each school then is receiving a lump fund, and very much the data that we received back from all of the groups, including IMPACT, DPACs, they've made it very clear that the best decisions on how that money then is distributed to families happens at the local level. In other words, to then, so for example, if in one school we know that the ESTs know the families quite well, and if they know that this family has difficulty in terms of getting their children to school, like the barrier is getting their children to school, then to be able to then provide either some funds for gas or a taxi cab, and to have an account for that, or monthly bus passes for students, that might be the best allocation for that family. For this other family where food insecurity is the biggest issue, then that family would get gift cards, which is again allowed by the ministry under the rules, and they get monthly gift cards, or that might happen every week depending on the needs of the family. And so those decisions will be based at the school level through those volunteer staff who know families best and who communicate with those families and can ask them what they need and how the best way to do that is. In terms of the feedback, very clearly, the feedback from all of the groups came out in terms of these priorities. They very much agreed with the government that food security had to be the first priority. And again, the government made it clear that gift cards are one way that funds could be distributed to families. They also made it clear that if there were any existing fees for identified students and families, whether from, it's meant for existing fees that are owing, but if a family, for example, owed fees from last year that were still outstanding, the feedback was very clear. Those fees needed to be paid for because they needed not to be a barrier for those families. The feedback was clear also that public transit passes, Uber or taxi funds, gas gift cards should support students who face barriers getting to and from school, because we know that students who attend school have the highest likelihood of being successful in school. Students identified by the ESTs should be able to attend all school and extracurricular events that they choose, such as camps, graduation ceremony, and banquet. Again, the feedback was very clear on that. The feedback also stated that students identified should be able to have all school band and school athletic fees paid for. And finally, all supplies related to any of the above events, including graduation gowns, suits, etc., should be paid for so that those students with these one-time funds would have the full and maximum impact of those funds. Another category that was a part of the plan was along the way that the ministry had originally urged a limiting of capital costs, but then eventually saw if food programs were going to expand or start from scratch, then there needed to be some capital expenditure, such as for stoves, such as for refrigerators, those kind of supplies, to support those new programs. So knowing what those needs are and getting consultation very much with the Langley School District Foundation, a grant of $141,000 is being held centrally. Schools are actually putting their lists together, putting them forward to the foundation, who then is going to forward them to Deputy Treasurer Shin Chand, and who's then going to begin a process where we're going to maximize the district's buying power to ensure that we can, again, maximize those funds. In terms of the summary of the plan and where all the funds then of that $2.163 million, 1.466 will go to families through schools, 105,000 and 405,000 through the foundation and those other agencies in that earlier slide. Again, as I just mentioned, $141,000 for capital equipment. And finally, we're keeping centrally a $46,000 fund, those remaining funds, in case of any new ideas or any emergencies that come up, so that we could then have some funds to be able to use. By May 15th of 2023, if those funds have not been used, they will be distributed to the schools so that the enhanced support teams will be able to then get those to families as soon as possible. And that is the end of that presentation.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion that the Board of Education receives the report on the Student and Family Affordability Fund for information as presented? Trustee Neufeld, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Do I have any discussion? Trustee Fox? Put your microphone.
Trustee Academy recently, and we had a presentation from the ministry, people patting themselves on the back on such a wonderful program such as this. And I reminded them of a couple of things. It's wonderful to see the money, but there's a one-year envelope. I said, you know, it's really great to be putting in $2.16 million into a district with no guarantee that it's going to be there next year. I said, you can't do this. You can't do this to families. That's not what families is about. That's not what supporting families is about. I said, the second thing is you give it to us in September. The planning's done in September. Yeah, we're grateful for getting what we get, but why don't you give that to us in May or June when we can plan? Thank you. Assistant Superintendent Marino, and your team for doing such an excellent job of preparing a very elaborate, well-documented process and distribution. But that should have been done so it was there at the end of August, so that the administrative assistants in secondary schools and elementary schools knew what the money was and could help students. That's when fees are paid. I told her, I said, that's when fees are paid. That's when we're identifying families for our youth care workers. Those are the things that are happening early in the school year. And it's, you know, they're out of jive with how schools work. I'm sorry, but it's very evident when something like this happens that you have to, we want to be proactive, not reactive. That's exactly what I told you. I said, you know what? We're being reactive and it's not good enough with the condition and situation that families are in now. They need to know that there's hope in the future, not wait till the school year starts 6-8 weeks in, find out, oh, we can get our fees covered. That sort of thing. So anyway, awesome work. You've done an awesome job. Our families are going to be supported. The foundation's going to be there. I know our school people our personnel will administer the funds, and don't leave 1 cent on the table. Not one. Okay? Because whenever that date is April 15th, make sure it's all gone, because we've got to prove to the ministry that it's necessary for the best functioning of students in our school district and the other 59 school districts in this province. That was no questions, just a little bit of a rant. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Trustee Fox. Any other discussion on the motion? No. All right. Could I have all those in favor, please raise your hands? Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the amended district calendar 2022 to 2023.
Thanks, Chair. Just a little bit of background. On February 22nd to 2022, as in your package, trustees approved the final district calendar for this school year. Again, just a high level calendar that's approved at that time. And then on September 13th, 2022, the Premier's office declared a holiday in observance of the death of the Queen. As a result, on October 24th, 2022, the Minister of Education advised superintendents that they would be updating the school calendar regulation to reflect the amendment by reducing the prescribed number of hours of instruction by 5 hours and reducing the days in session for instruction by 1. This calendar that's attached in your package shows just that one change. The reduced number of hours and the 1 less day of instructional time. And this evening, as a point of procedure, we've been asked to approve the amended district calendar for 2022-2023 as presented. For your information, those changes have been made at the ministry level already.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion from trustees that the Board of Education approves the amended district calendar for 2022 to 2023 as presented? Trustee Neufeld, second Trustee Rye. Any discussion on the motion? As there's no discussion, I have all those in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda, Secretary Treasurer's report. Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley, sorry. Over to you for budget process and timelines 2023 to 2024.
Thank you, Chair. In your package is a detailed report on the budget process that the district undertakes every year, and some of the philosophies and thoughts on the process and all that we go through every year, and the trustees will have plenty of opportunities as we come back over the next couple months on the amended budget and the preliminary budget that is coming. So I wanted to just more focus on the appendix that shows the kind of the timeline and events that we do as we go through the two budget cycles. We're right now in the amended budget process cycle, which we brought back on the 28th for board approval. But that is something that a lot of work has been done already. Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shin Chand has been doing a lot of work with our schools and our central departments on the budgets that they have. The schools have been given their their allocations, and those budgets have all been balanced with the schools, and him and his team have worked hand in hand with all our principals to go through that process with them, and just the support that they provide is great for them to walk side by side with our principals in doing budgets. That's not what they got into education to be doing. It's not probably one of their most favorite times of the year, but I know the team is there to walk them through that and to help them every step of the way. The district leadership team has been working through November and will continue through January with some of the items that we're seeing in the amended budget and the needs for those. We'll be providing an update, of course, to the board at the finance and facilities meeting in January and the finance and facilities meeting in February before bringing back to the board on the 21st for approval, as we have to submit the amended budget on the 28th, or by the 28th of February, I should say. While that process is ongoing, and we also are starting the process for the 23-24 preliminary budgets. And that will start in the new year with our meetings with our stakeholder groups. Last year, we also started a process of doing a budget survey. We've always done a budget open house in June, but last year we did a budget survey that Assistant Superintendent Shin Chan worked with Joe Abshire, our communication manager, on, where we had phenomenal results. Well over 2,000 people responded to that survey. And we plan to undertake a similar survey this year to get that feedback from our community, and hopefully the two of them can beat their record. One big thing for the district, obviously, is our funding announcement, which is due to us by March 15th of every year. And that's where the ministry tells us what the operating grant calculations are going to be for the following school year. So Secretary Treasurer's circle that date on the calendar, because that's where we kind of find out what we're dealing with. And then that forms a lot of our conversations going on. We meet February through April with central departments to find out kind of the needs that they have for programs that are in the strategic plan, any new initiatives, cost increases, and those types of things. Then we're back to our schools with allocations in early April, so that they can get their staffings set up by the end of April and know where they sit at that point. And we'll be bringing updates, obviously, to the board right from February right to May on that process as we go through that. And we've typically done our first and second reading at the meeting in May, which is May 16th this year. And in between those, we have the budget open house where the community come and ask questions on the budget that was opened. I know Marnie loves that, and budget banter with Brian is one of her favorite things to tease me about. Then hopefully we would be having third reading of the budget bylaw June 20th to be compliant with the School Act to submit a balanced budget by the end of June. So that is the process that is outlined before you and is there for your approval tonight. And with that, I hand it back to you, Chair Ashton.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Is like trustees. Can I please have a motion that the Board of Education approve with that? Can I please have a motion that the Board of Education approve the budget process and timeline 2023-2024 preliminary operating budget as presented? Trustee Rye, seconder. Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion? Trustee Fox? No? Oh. You're jumping ahead. Okay, so no discussion? All right, then I will call the question on the motion that the Board of Education approve the budget process and timeline 2023 to 2024 preliminary operating budget as presented. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Next, an enrollment update. Back to you, Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, there's a fair bit of information in your package, and have shared with the board at the Finance Facilities meeting previously on our enrollment numbers. And so just a quick 2 slides here so we can go through some of the highlights. The district once again has seen a lot of growth. These numbers are against what we had budgeted, and now there's another slide that will show the growth year over year after this. Our district grew 746.8653 FTE, and which basically funding just under $5.9 million that we are estimating will be confirmed at the recount in December. So these are what we estimate those will be based on the current formulas that the ministry has used for the preliminary budget. We anticipate that they will be the same with just enrollment numbers adjusted. That's what has historically happened. So we are counting on that happening for this year as well. Our alternate categories are up 32 FTEs for just over $250,000. One of the things that did decline was continuing ed, distributed learning, and homeschooling and course challenges have gone down 44.625 FTE for about $83,000. A lot of that is those categories really went up during the pandemic, especially our homeschooling. Went from a range of 16, 17 kids to about 120. I think we're now down into the 50 or 60 range. So it's still higher than in traditional we've seen, but starting to come down. And same with the DL categories. A lot of those went up and have been coming down the last couple of years to more traditional levels. Our special needs students, level 1 increased by 4. Level 2 increased by 6, and level 3 actually went down by 48 students. But overall, it was almost a $2.1 million increase in our special needs funding, which is the largest since I've been with the district. So a lot of more of our kids have been identified in the funding categories. In the unique student categories, we have ELL learners, English language learners. That's a category that's been growing year over year in this district, up 154 more students, similar to the growth last year, $244,000. Our Aboriginal students and adults were roughly break even, and just down $1,800. And our summer session increased just under $175,000 as we have basically gotten back to pre-pandemic levels for our summer session programs. Compared to September of last year, you can see the numbers were up just over 1,100 head count, and just under that slightly on the FTE. And you'll also see the corresponding drop in the online and DL courses that you mentioned earlier. So the district has once again grown substantially. There's a few things that have driven that. Obviously, the pandemic, people coming back to classes, but I think a phenomenon that has been seen in Metro and Fraser Valley is the number of the non-fee payers. So that's people that are here on work visas, student visas, and all those. Normally a district like ours, we do 300 of those during the summer. It was closer to 600 or 700 this year. And that was pretty much a statement across Secretary Treasurers that a lot of the people from overseas had come back after the pandemic and had driven a large number of growth. So it's going to make projecting for next year difficult, obviously, because the last 3 years have not have been anything but normal when we look at our enrollment numbers. If you look over the course of the 3 years, we're averaging about 700 students a year, which is right in line with what we project for our capital submission and the growth. But it has not been linear. So with the housing prices and all those that are happening, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for us to make a projection for the next school year. And as we have done, as you can see in the numbers, we will continue to provide for budget conservative estimates for enrollment, because that does drive our funding. And we find out too late in the year, if our numbers aren't here, it's a lot harder to pull money out than it is to add money back in. So with that, I will hand it back to the chair and answer any questions. I'll do the slide. Yeah.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion from trustees that the Board of Education receives the funding and enrollment update for information as presented? Trustee Ward, seconded by Trustee Fox. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing as there's no discussion, the question is on the motion that the Board of Education receives the funding and enrollment update for information as presented. Can I have a show of hands for all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to Policy Committee. And for this one, I'm going to turn this over to Trustee Fox. Trustee Rye is our new chair of our Policy Committee. However, these policy reports are coming from the last committee, the last board. So we'll have Trustee Fox give us the update and bring, there's a couple of recommendations from the committee. So over to you, Trustee Fox.
So our first policy is policy 13, which is appeals bylaw. And this was discussed by the previous policy committee. And there is an addition in your package. It's in red. A couple of additions there that are in red. So I would like to make a motion that the Board of Education serves notice of motion to the district's education community and its education partner groups that it intends to adopt the revisions to policy number 13, appeals bylaw, at the February 21st, 2023 regular board meeting. I so move.
You moved by Trustee Fox. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Wilson? Is there any discussion on the motion? Trustee Wilson?
Great. Yeah, I just feel like for parents, especially parents, it's good to have some sort of background to this. And it was brought to the committee because the language is very complex, and we had wanted to see if we could make it more user-friendly, I think was the term. And what we've come to realize is we really wanted to put an emphasis on the fact that the appeals must clearly demonstrate that there was a significant effect to the education, health, or safety of a student. So although we're in a society right now where we're all about the story, and parents really want to present the situation and the story, and it's not that that's not important, it's just that the School Act really ties our hands in how we proceed with this. And so it's important that people read the bylaw if they plan on using it. And if they are struggling with the wording, I encourage them to reach out to DPAC or any other advocacy that they can, see fit, because it is an important policy. And I understand when somebody's going to use it, they're probably in a very stressful situation. So know that we tried to make it a little bit more user-friendly, but because of the School Act and the legal obligation we have, it needed to stay pretty much how it was. So we did make a couple small changes, and I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, the question is on the motion that the oh my goodness, that the Board of I must be getting tired. That the Board of Education serves notice of motion to the district's education community and its education partner groups that it intends to adopt the revisions to policy number 13, appeals bylaw, at the February 21st, 2023 regular board meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to policy 18, student transportation. Back over to you, Trustee Fox.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. So the student transportation policy 18, this has been back and forth with the policy committee previously on a number of occasions, April the 5th, October the 4th of last year, or sorry, this year, last term. The attempt, it's always in the language, and it's trying to create a language that covers as many areas as we can without trying to leave anybody out, but trying to keep some structure to it. So the changes are in your in red in your package. So I will make the motion that the Board of Education serves notice of motion to the district's education community and its education partner groups that it intends to adopt the revisions to policy number 18, student transportation, at the February 21st, 2023 regular board meeting. I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Fox. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Trustee Neufeld? Any discussion on the motion? Trustee Wilson?
Yes, as Trustee Fox said, this policy has come back and forth a number of times, and the last time it was referred, it was for the committee to review for ableist language. And I believe that we did some good work on this, but I just really still feel when I read the 1.1.3 that I would just feel more comfortable if we removed the word physical before disabilities, so that it read students who have been approved for complex resource support or with disabilities who are unable to navigate, instead of physical disabilities, because I just feel that there are so many disabilities that are developmental and that we are limiting it with physical disabilities. But I understand that this should probably be something that goes back to the policy committee. So if no one else has anything they'd like to say, I would like to make a motion to refer it back to the policy committee to investigate making changes to the language in 1.1.3.
Just a second.
Okay, so motion by Trustee Wilson. You have that motion? You're okay, Judy? You have the motion? And seconded by Trustee Fox. Do I have any discussion on the motion to refer back to policy committee? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I will, sorry, I'm just gonna grab that motion. She did send it to you. That's not it. Sorry, that's not it. I found it. Yeah, sorry, if you don't mind just reading it out one more time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion to refer back to the policy committee to investigate making changes to the language in 1.1.3.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Okay, could I have a show of hands for all those in favor of referring back to policy committee? Okay, any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, and now we moved from the consent agenda, the committee reports on policy committee at the request of Trustee Wilson. So I'm going to turn this over to you then, Trustee Wilson.
Great, thank you. I just wanted it pulled for a quick comment or discussion. I did have something written out just with some background because I'm referring to the committee reports on both October 4th and December 6th, where they reference policy 8 board committees. But I'm going to skip what I've written out with the background on it and just say that I am happy that although the policy that was put forth by the policy changes that were put forth by the last committee weren't put forward to this board, that there was discussion that it was mainly due to the logistics for how the changes would be carried out, and that the committee was open to bringing it back if there was more information and a structure to look at. So I'm happy that the committee is open to revisiting policy 8, and I will gladly work on a comprehensive proposal for the board and have it ready sometime in the new year. That's all my comment is on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. All right, moving on to new business of the board. There was no new business added. Oh, Trustee Wilson has a motion. Okay, over to you, Trustee Wilson.
Sorry, I emailed out the motion to the trustees. So the motion reads that the Langley Board of Education post the agendas for the Langley Board of Education standing committees on the SD 35 school district website a minimum of 24 hours prior to any standing committee meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Trustee Ward? Okay, any discussion on the motion? Trustee Wilson?
Oh, okay. Am I on? Not even on the thing. So I have a short rationale, but I'm not sure that this motion needs much of a rationale. I think that if a meeting is public, then the public should be entitled to know what will be transpiring in that meeting. I heard very clearly during the campaign that the public feel that it is difficult to find information regarding our committee meetings. So I am hopeful that if the agendas are made public, the public will find the process easier to navigate. We know that people's time is valuable and they shouldn't have to sit through a meeting to see if there are any items of interest to them. They should see in advance if there is something that they're interested in and then decide accordingly if they wish to spend their time. Thank you.
Okay, over to you, Trustee Neufeld.
Chair Ashdown, I believe that this motion is being made with good intention. But what I would like to see is this brought to the policy committee for review, as it is a change to the process for committees which are outlined in policy. In policy, we'll be able to have more accountability to the public. Also, any work that needs to be done can be done prior to the change. Therefore, I would like to move that this motion be referred to the policy committee.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for this motion to refer? Trustee Dickinson? Okay, any discussion on the motion to refer over to policy committee? Trustee Fox?
Yeah, I think the intent of this motion the agenda for the next policy committee meeting so that we could discuss it process wise. I understand where Trustee Neufeld's going. I just like to get it dealt with as soon as we possibly could, if in terms of discussion.
I'll let Secretary Treasurer Isley weigh in
So
on this.
the policy meeting January 10th, and per policy, if things referred from the public board meeting to policy, get precedent, so be on the next agenda.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Ward?
Okay, so thank you through the chair to Trustee Neufeld. I appreciate kind of where you're coming from, but I'm just trying to understand what would be, just relating this motion in general, what would be the limiting factors why we wouldn't just make these dates available? And I would actually ask Secretary Treasurer Isley if there's any concerns that we might have. I realize we're talking about your motion, but why wouldn't we just make it available now? Am I crossing motions with my discussion? Okay,
So we're discussing
fair enough.
currently the motion to refer to
But it
policy
ties
committee.
into it, so I
But
don't know what to, I don't know how to word it.
I'm going to pass this over to Secretary Treasurer Isley again.
The process can be done. I think the concern from staff would be that you have a motion on how the board is to operate. We have policies on how the board operates. So if we're going to make a structural change, it should be in policy, not in motion, because then you also have a motion that will never end.
the other benefit of putting it in policy, then it becomes transparent in the future as to how or what our role is as far as providing agendas for public. It would be right there, documented in policy.
Any further discussion on the motion to refer? Trustee Wilson.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with referring it, especially if it's going to be dealt with at the January 10th meeting, but I did just want to, for information purposes, also let you know that any motion that the board makes that's on a continual basis does get reviewed by the policy committee to enshrine into policy at some point. That's part of the policy committee's mandate. So just so you're aware.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to refer this to policy committee? All right, hearing no more discussion, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Now moving on to trustee comments. Is there any trustees who would like to make any comments before the end of the evening? Yeah, we'll just start at the end. Okay, Trustee Fox.
Actually pass on this, but I do have to make one comment, and that was, it was such a pleasure to see a former student at Aldergrove, come back after participating in the World Cup to his school and donate his jersey to go on the wall of honor at the school. I have to acknowledge the humbleness of Joel Waterman is exemplary.
Thank you. Trustee Ward.
Well, it's hard to beat that. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I just want to wish everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is our last. Oh, you want to? You can take some of my time if you
You
like.
can go back to
I'm
your
gonna
trustee
refer
Fox.
back to policy, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, your time is done. But just I'm looking forward to working with this board. I think we've got a good bunch here. I'm happy to learn from all the new members, and we have great, as we always say, we have great senior leadership here and leadership all around. So we're pretty fortunate to have such a great district through and through, and great partners as well. So just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Trustee Rye.
I can just say that I feel like I'm back to school again, just learning lots and lots about policies, the School Act. But I am learning a lot. I'm part of a great group, so I really feel really fortunate that I'm here with these guys. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I'm soaking it in this year. Maybe next year I'll propose some motions and make some changes. But
I don't have much to say, but Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, all the things we celebrate. So please enjoy and have a safe and happy holiday season.
Trustee Neufeld.
I would just be reiterating what everybody else said. So Merry Christmas.
Trustee Wilson.
Great. I do want to just take a moment to recognize our partner groups. And it's my understanding that we have had 2 of our partner group presidents leave their positions. And I just wanted to give recognition and thanks to CUPE 1851's outgoing president, Human Anasori, and CUPE 1260's outgoing president, Jennifer Johnson, for their service to their members and to this district in their labor roles. It can be a very difficult work, but I hope that they know and their successors know that it is work that is appreciated by this board. I also want to wish extra patience to all of our teachers and support staff who have been working with students this week. We all know that this time of year can be extremely stressful for some of our students, and you are the calm reassurance they are seeking. Lastly, I want to wish all of our staff, partner groups, parents, and students a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope you can all take time to relax and reflect with friends and family over the break. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like another chance to speak, Trustee Fox? No? Okay. 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 All right, I'll just take this quick opportunity to wish everyone a happy holidays, and I hope you're more ready than I am, because I am not ready at all. I have a lot to do in the next week and a half, but I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to having a little more people over than we have in the last couple of years. So really looking forward to kind of getting back to somewhat normal. And I'm looking forward to, it's an honor to be up here at our first regular meeting of the board. And I just want to say that I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I've gotten to know you all a little bit more, and just really looking forward to the next 4 years. So it's an honor. All right, so we're going to move on to question period. Question period is provided at board meetings. The purpose is to ensure that those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification concerning business conducted during that meeting. Priority will be given to responding to one question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed to the chair and not to staff, need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda, need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement, may not be asked that are related to personnel or directed at an individual trustee, may not be asked that are related to contract negotiations, and the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above are directions provided in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may not be in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates the public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted with question period focused on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees also welcome questions from members of the public apart from question period. Their contact information is available on the school district website. Are there any questions this evening? Come on up. You could please state your name.
Chair, just assume all the questions are directed to the chair, please. On the transportation allowance in policy 18, I'm just curious, how many students in the districts today avail themselves of an allowance where transportation can't be provided for routes with less than 7 students, or for other reasons, transportation allowances are provided to students? I was just curious how many folks are actually on that program?
Can I direct that to you, Secretary Treasurer?
I don't know the exact number, but it's
Okay.
a handful. It's not a
It's a
lot.
fairly de minimis amount.
We were able to get most of them out of us.
Gotcha. In the enrollment update, I noticed sort of if we look distribution wise, the district is up about 5.5%, but proportionally the RE Mountain High School catchment is up just over 12%. Looks evenly distributed across the underlying elementary schools, save for RC Garnet. I'm curious, with that level of enrollment specific to a single high school catchment, are you expecting any capacity concerns in regards to portable installation beyond what was already expected by staff? And as a secondary question there, are there any considerations of amendments to the established catchments in regards to RE Mountain in order to redistribute the underlying elementary school increase?
To you again, Secretary Treasurer.
I'll see if I can remember all those questions, but yes, there are concerns about the capacity of RE Mountain. There are 4 portables there this year, another 6 on the way for next September.
Mhm.
The problem with catchments is that the surrounding schools up and down are both also full. So it is our #1 ask to the ministry for another school. We are hopefully optimistic for announcement that being in our funding announcement in March. That would be ideal for us. But we have had conversations on how we can look at doing things differently at that school, and have had hard discussions about options to try and alleviate some of the pressures there, but it will entail portables and other ways of doing things. Did I get all those questions?
I think so. Do you think we've demonstrated a need yet?
And then some.
As well, just related to school fees, both in the DPAC report as well as from the affordability, I'll reiterate my ask. Is the district able to provide a standardized schedule of fees for elementary and high school so that it is transparent to stakeholders and parents what school fees are by school in advance of a school year? I think, no, I'm not going to make a statement. Are we able to do that in the model of like the BSB or other districts who provide standardized schedules published in advance of school starting?
Thank you for the question, Evan. Yes, we are working on that. It is our goal to have that in place for next year.
Cool, thank you. Did I have another question, or will it simply be referred to policy committee? No. I'd love a committee on committees. Really go Kafka-esque. That is all. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, Evan. All right. Being that there is no further business, can I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Fox. Seconder, Trustee Wilson. And all those in favor, show of hands. Any opposed? Unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming this evening.